Brittney. Uh, thank,
Hello.
thank you so much for joining me on this second edition of the podcast. So there's definitely a lot for us to talk about, but I wanted to start a little bit about you. So could you share a little bit who you are and what aspects on your career journey led you to your current role?
Sure. My name is Brittney Ziebell. I am the Director of Entrepreneurship at Couloir, which is a nonprofit sort of incubator based in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I run our mentorship program, which is called TEAMS. It stands for Teton Entrepreneurs and Mentor Services. My background before this position was in fundraising and development for nonprofits. And I'm really enjoying this new role and excited to have a great discussion today.
So, would you say you are full-time, like the person running a venture mentoring service?
Yes, I am full-time and I am the main person who runs the program. I would say, I have support with other team members, but our program is run by one full-time employee.
What makes your program different, or what makes it somewhat special in your mind?
We are located in a very rural location in northwestern Wyoming, and it's very unique because it's a very beautiful place. We're right outside of Grand Teton National Park, and so there's a really interesting mix of people that gravitate here. We have a lot of intellectual capital we to tap into with mentors. There's a bit of a tax incentive to live here, as well as it's just a beautiful place. So we have a lot of early retirees, second homeowners, and people who can work remote.
So, given that you have choice, what's the secret to being a great mentor in your program, and who do you know is not going to be a great mentor for your founders?
A great mentor in our program is someone who is interested in engaging with the local community, who comes from, a high-end professional background. We kind of have a minimum requirement for time that we ask of our mentors. We ask them to be on 2 teams minimum, and we ask them to join at least 6 luncheons a year. And so one of the challenges we have on the mentorship side is the level of engagement, since this is sometimes a second home, or if they're remote workers still, they're traveling quite a lot.
Uh,
Mhm.
have you ever said no to someone applying to the program, and why?
Yes, rarely, but we have. And I would say it is the ability to be a bit of a team player and listen and allow kind of equal floor for everyone on the team. That would be our main reason. We have had a couple instances where perhaps the individual didn't have quite enough of a wide breadth in their background. And so those are kind of the 2 that come to mind at the moment.
Thank you for sharing. I know it's tough for a nonprofit to turn down volunteers. Another question that sometimes startups ask when they come in, they want people who are exited entrepreneurs, who are investors, who are like people who have been there, have done that. What's your view on backgrounds of mentors? Do you require them to be entrepreneurs? And if not, like how's that kind of perceived by entrepreneurs and
Mhm.
by the community?
We do not require them to be entrepreneurs. I think that it's just time in an industry that we value quite highly, as well as like I said, the ability to listen. We have had a couple of mentors who have approached us that have a really specific background, such as blockchain. And we've had to have some honest conversations that we might, we only have one team right now that's in blockchain. Are you open and willing to mentor other industries? And that's a decision that we have to make together. regarding that mentor. And so there are conversations like that, but they're somewhat rare.
And in terms of building the team, so venture mentoring service involves having a team of mentors with different skill sets. Do you have any advice for someone who is trying to put a team for the first time? What's the secret to put together a great team?
Our program offers self-selection from mentors onto teams, and sometimes mentors will self-select. Sometimes I'll have to kind of recruit and encourage mentors, and that's a little bit of work on staff too, because you're almost pitching to your mentors why you think they're a good fit for this team. And it's really fun because you get to kind of connect interpersonally people and needs, and bring them together and encourage them to support one another when they might not see it right out of the box. And so I find that part very rewarding.
Thank you. I can share what helped us in terms of Innovate Charlotte to make this a little bit less painful, the selection process, especially when it's not like love at first sight. We would have a trial period of 3 months. And then,
yep.
So you also run like a 3 months period. And how frequently do startups change their mentors after this period? Does it happen?
It does happen. I would say, instances are the needs of the entrepreneur change. Mentors will move away and need to step off a team. I wouldn't say it happens regularly, but here and there.
So there are many things to kind of managing mentors, like recruitment, training, onboarding, like matching to the founders that the program mentor like yourself has to figure out. Is there something that you are prioritizing for the next like 3 to 6 months, some things that you want to work on or change? Could you share a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so like I've mentioned, one of our challenges is engagement. And so we have been changing up our luncheon. We offer monthly luncheons for our mentors. And we've been changing a few up to be more happy hours. We have adjusted 4 in the year to be virtual to better support our mentors that are traveling. We're trying to bring in really new, exciting presenters for our luncheons. For example, this past month, we brought in 2 speakers in an affordable housing nonprofit here locally to speak about the issue and how widespread it is in our county. And that was really interesting to our mentors, because sometimes that can be kind of a confusing topic to learn about, to speak about. And so my hope was that they would walk away with more understanding of the topic to help support our ventures that are scaling. We have another speaker coming up that is speaking about becoming a B Corp. So we're really trying to kind of up the level of our luncheons, and we're also being a little more clear about expectations when onboarding mentors in our program, a minimum amount of luncheons they need to try to attend, minimum amount of teams we'd like to see them on, just so that right off the bat, we're really trying to keep them engaged. And we're also going through a bit of a re-engagement process. Our program began in 2018. And some of our more senior mentors have been around and been in the program for a long time, and expectations have changed over time. So I think we're putting a lot of effort in with I have 2 committees. I have an applications committee, volunteer committee, and I have a operational volunteer committee. And the operational committee is helping me kind of reach out and touch base with all of our mentors, and especially our more senior mentors, to reestablish expectations and to make sure everyone feels it's still a good fit and just kind of open up the floor to touch base and make sure it's working for everyone.
Listening to you, if I was not in the middle of it, you're explaining it like it's very calm and nice process of dealing with mentors. I know the underlying pressure
Yes.
and
Yes.
sometimes drama that is involved, especially once you mentioned legacy mentors. But I won't go there just yet. I wanted to learn about founders. What kind of founders do you currently serve?
I would say we're pretty heavy on products and services. We're a little light on tech, and we don't. Our program does not support idea stage founders. We have other programming that, such as a startup success 6-week course, we offer once a year that we are able to nudge some of our early stage applicants to apply for. We are generally kind of post-revenue founders who are seeking to grow and to scale. You know, because we're rural, not all of our companies in our mentorship program are at the point they're traditionally investable, but they're getting the support to hopefully get there. Let's see here. And, you know, we have a lot of founders who wear a lot of hats. They're also professional athletes here in the
Oh,
mountains, and they're very risk tolerant. And so that's kind of fun too, because they're willing to just dive in. They're really courageous. And I think that kind of comes with this area being up in the mountains.
I know one of the struggles of some programs is founder engagement. Like
Mhm.
even with our program in the past, we've had founders who wouldn't show up to meetings or wouldn't properly engage with mentors. They would just share updates with the team and not really ask questions or not use mentors as they are supposed to be used. What's your experience in your program with like figuring out the right fit for founders and also like engaging founders?
I'd say a common problem that in our program is perhaps founders who aren't they're wonderful, they're coachable, but they're maybe not progressing. And so
Mm,
that's a challenging one for our mentors. And I've got a wonderful group that's definitely very communicative. I lean on my lead mentors a lot to help update me on these things before they get too far, and to communicate with me so that, you know, perhaps staff needs to step in and nudge some of our founders a little bit to kind of think bigger picture and move along. There's definitely been some founders that you know, struggle to get their agenda on time or submit homework. One area we definitely have room for improvement on is our quarterly reporting. You know, it'd be wonderful to be in a place where we're better able to quantify the impact we're making in our mentorship program, but that relies so heavily on the engagement of our entrepreneurs. And that's an area we still definitely struggle with. And I have heard in other MIT idea exchanges that is a common one for us all.
it's definitely very hard to create that engagement. Anything, any tricks or hacks you've learned that help, especially with those founders who are very nice, they show up to meetings, they provide agendas, but they're not making real progress?
Yeah, it's definitely tricky. My advice is lean on your lead mentors. You know, they a lot of ours are, you know, C-suite level and have management experience and great communication experience, and you know, just figuring out a tactical way to have that conversation with the founder. And you know, sometimes if the mentors don't give the entrepreneur this tough love, who else is going to? You know, because friends and family might not. And so sometimes they're hard conversations, but that's also the point of this program. And so sometimes it's hard, and not all lead mentors want to do it. And staff will sometimes step in and offer to assist. but I think it's important that it happens and that you don't avoid it because it's a moment of growth.
Does it help to focus on entrepreneur as a person versus just a business
Absolutely.
owner? Like,
Yes, and we remind our mentors of that often. We're coaching the entrepreneur, not the venture. And that seems to click with a lot of people. It makes it more personal. It makes it more, you're more able to empathize. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with that.
do you ever like fire founders?
There have been a couple instances where, the homework and the basic expectations aren't being met, or yeah, we've had to. It's a little tough, but usually when you're at the point that you're having that discussion, they know it's coming.
If everything goes according to plan, do they stay forever in the program, or there is like a timeline and they have to renew their commitment? How does it work in your program?
Yeah, I try to, there's not a formal, we have the 3 month, as we discussed, the 3 month kind of phase, we call it phase one. It's like a trial period. Once they're in phase two, there is no formal end date. It's as long as they're meeting the requirements and things are going well. We do have a couple teams that, we're not too old. We started in 2018, so they're still in our program. And I try to, every couple of months, our minimum meeting requirement is quarterly. And so at quarterly, I try to make sure everyone has been meeting. And if they haven't, check in with them. And I kind of have a little bit of a strike rule. Just, I hate to be the rule person, but if they're not answering me after multiple check-ins and they kind of have fallen off the face of the earth, like, it might be time that they exit the program, because it's very important to us too, and it's a challenge to communicate the value. Our program is free, but if we were to bill out this time with our mentors of their caliber, this would be, over $1,000 a session. And so we want to make sure that entrepreneurs are respecting mentors' time, they're organized, and they're doing their job, which is tough because it's busy. It's a lot to juggle. And then I try to remind mentors that homework should not be something on top of everything founders are doing. Ideally, it's something helping to streamline, it's something helping with efficiencies so that these founders aren't in these meetings like wide-eyed, like totally overwhelmed, like how am I going to do this on top of all my other to-dos in a day or a week? So that takes some reminders as well.
And I think that's the biggest challenge in terms of homework, to summarize the whole conversation with dozens of ideas to one or two actionable items that the founder buys into. And I found this is the challenge for a lot of teams.
Yes, and I think that also bleeds into the agenda a little bit. I have found that some of our entrepreneurs have a 3-page agenda, and you have to help them understand it's one goal for the meeting, it's one page, it's got to stay simple, and that in turn helps the homework stay simple. And I think that that's a really good practice for founders, because sometimes they're just so caught in the weeds on the day-to-day that it's hard for them to kind of step back and figure out their main goals and priorities.
You mentioned that you don't work with very early stage founders, and I wanted to understand the overall ecosystem, and how does mentorship fit into the founder journey of your organization and overall in the community? Could you talk a little bit about that?
We have a 6-week course that is an educational course it's called Startup Fundamentals. And it's about, the basics of a startup, but also exploring your own core values and making sure that they match those of your business. It's a time to pause and reassess so that you don't get too far down the road as an entrepreneur and realize you don't love it. And so we try to refer entrepreneurs who are a little bit too early to do that once a year course. And then I would say this mentorship program is kind of the second tier. We also have a monthly networking event that happens on the first Monday of the month. And that's a great opportunity for different topics and presentations and just networking and meeting people in the community. We have a pitch day that happens once a year, and we oftentimes have a lot of our entrepreneurs from our mentorship program that apply and are finalists in our pitch day. And recently we've decided with the overlap there that if they're accepted into our pitch day, they focus on coaching for that and they pause on their mentorship just because there's so many monthly things going on. They're coached very regularly months prior to this pitch day. So there's that. And then finally we have an angel group that we recommend to some of our later stage entrepreneurs who are fundraising.
It looks like you were holding the keys to the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem. Are there other organizations in your rural area that do something similar, or essentially everything is under your roof?
There are a couple other organizations in our state that definitely support entrepreneurs more at this like incubator level. We are the only one that we know of like our kind that's a nonprofit and not yet state funded. So we rely on donors that we call trustees that support everything we do. Most of our programs are free, and our pitch day comes with quite a large cash prize. The only program that requires anything, any payment amount, is the Startup Success course, and that's just so that entrepreneurs take it seriously, and it can be subsidized as well.
What have you found as a good way to measure and demonstrate success of the program, that your trustees, your donors are getting a good return, or even volunteers are getting a good return on the investment?
Absolutely. So I mean, I don't think we're unique in the sense that mentors seek community and want to help and make an impact. And so that's our main kind of, that's how we bring most of our mentors in. They want to give back. They've gone through the challenges that a lot of our founders are, and we meet a lot of them through our networking events, and we tell them about our mentorship program. And then some of the other perks are, for the mentors that love it and are really rewarded by it and fired up, we ask them to help coach our finalists for pitch day. We ask them to join a volunteer committee that helps me with applications or operational projects. So there are ways to get more involved. On the donor side, we call them trustees, and we host a handful of events per year. We have a ski day, we go to a winery, we go to a ranch in Wyoming, and we kind of do a handful of trustee events with speakers to say thank you and to provide that sense of community to them and to give them an update on our programming and what we're doing and their impact. So, and many of our trustees end up learning more about what we do and getting involved as a mentor. So it's kind of this cyclical program and event calendar.
Looks like a job for more than one full-time person.
We're busy. There are 4 of us total.
Okay.
And like I said, I run the mentorship program and assist in some of the other areas, but we have a marketing and events director and an executive director, and we have another staff member who runs our co-work space that we own.
So essentially, like, it's a coordinated communications kind of plan to reach the community, and then people go to programs depending on their need.
Yep, exactly.
With my experience, I found it particularly helpful to share success stories, to do write-ups on mentors and founders and progress that they've accomplished. How do you share your kind of impact on the mentorship side specifically?
Yeah, I love your idea of case studies that we've discussed in the past, and I think that that's a great area to explore more. Right now, my main way of communicating is we have our monthly luncheons that I put together statistics on how many hours of total volunteered time have happened this past month, a count on ventures and mentors and mentor specialists, updates about upcoming events, wins for certain teams, and what accomplishments they've made in the past month. And for all the mentors who are present, they hear that update in person. And for anyone who can't make it, it's a monthly kind of newsletter email that goes out about the program, and just tries to highlight all the exciting things happening.
And do you reach out to like the community to share the updates in terms of what's going on with mentorship?
We don't, because of the confidentiality aspect to what we do. I think there's probably ways we can get creative and share that impact more. We do in an annual report,
Hmm.
but it's a little bit more high level. It's not the same personal update that mentors get in the program. So I think that there's maybe some room for improvement there, with figuring out how to keep it confidential, or get permission to share some statistics and share that with the wider community.
I want to ask something about you yourself. So, what made you apply for this role that requires so many things? Even though you have a team of four, still it looks like there's so much to do to run an entrepreneurial ecosystem like that. So, what made you apply? How were you sold in this position?
That's a great question. Way back in time, I was initially in wedding planning, and part of wedding planning is you have to be so organized and so detail oriented. So I think at like a pretty young age, that was a strength of mine. And then you also have to be so organized when dealing with donors as a development director of a nonprofit. And so I think I saw it as an opportunity to help organize where the program was when I came in, streamline it, figure out what was working and what wasn't, and kind of I got excited about that challenge a little bit, and I think the interpersonal aspect of it really it's rewarding. It can be hard because you're sometimes dealing with strong personalities, and sometimes matches don't work for teams. But I would say most of the time it's very rewarding. It's a very interpersonal job, and when it's going well, it's been wonderful. People have great things to say about the program. Of course, there's moments of critique and things, fires to put out, but that's also life.
Was there anything you didn't expect when you took on the role?
For us, we can't keep up with the demand. So I thought, as I started last May. I thought I would kind of get everything understood, catch up and catch up. And we have a backlog of about 10 venture applications right now, and we just simply can't keep up with the demand in this area for venture applications. And so that's been a lot to manage, especially with the volunteer committee that meets monthly. Ventures are waiting longer than we'd ideally like to get into our program. So, uh, yeah, that was unexpected.
Thank you so much. And I remember us talking about this before a while back, but it's good and refreshing to learn where you're coming from, what's your background, and how people get pulled into this entrepreneurial ecosystem. So thank you for sharing your story. You talked about management, and as you know, I have a biased question here as well. As your program is using Traction 5, could you give your honest assessment in what way this tool has been helpful, and what are the things that are still missing on like technological front to help you be more effective in your job?
Yeah, I guess I'll start off by saying I'm learning a lot. I'm leaning on a lot of sister programs when it comes to just management of the program and what people are using and how. And I think the consistent answer across the board is there's not like one perfect solution that's going to fit every single program. And so Traction 5 has worked wonderfully as an organization tool to build out teams. I come from like a background in fundraising, so like notes on relational aspects of programming and notes on meetings is something that I'm extremely used to in fundraising, and that aspect of it has been so helpful. If I were to ever move on or change positions in the organization, like my brain is in Traction 5 with notes on mentors and teams and updates and interviews, and that part's been wonderful. I'm still working pretty hard to get our mentors to use it. They're volunteers, and so it's difficult to remind, get them to get in there and use it and explore. And let's see here. And then we were originally using the applications in Traction 5, but we've recently had to redefine who we serve in our program because our demand is so high. And with that, we have a very specific kind of application series of questions about the region and about coachability that we decided to kind of migrate away temporarily from the applications in Traction 5, but it still works great because I'm able to still attach it. I'm able to just jump right back in after the application phase. So that's a quick update where we're at, but I really appreciate the tool.
Thank you. And actually, I appreciate you sharing about the application process, because we are right now in the process of adding customization of questions to applications. So
Wonderful.
to kind of use Traction 5 and still ask your custom questions. And I feel on the mentor engagement side, this is something that we are building stuff, but we are not probably doing a good job of explaining. We've built recently tools to help mentors vote for ventures, and also see what's going on like on a snapshot. But this is like great feedback for me in terms of how to communicate and how to build out the features. So I appreciate
Yeah, and I also want to add one other feature I love is like the program materials feature in Traction 5, because if that didn't exist, I'd probably be in the world of Google Drive with my mentors, and they lose the link in their email, and just having a home base to link everything they need. For on mine, it's a template for agendas. It's a list of mentor specialists. It's a quick tutorial on how to use Traction 5 for entrepreneurs and for mentors, so that mentors can send it to their entrepreneur if they ask. And so hopefully it's a page where I'm hoping they can be more self-sufficient and not email me so much asking for materials. So that's been a huge help too.
I love that you speak about program materials, because like technologically that's like a super simple page, but to see that it creates so much value, that's empowering. And this is the challenge of building a product. Sometimes you invest a lot of effort into building complex feature that is not as needed, whereas giving people like yourself a page that you can offer to mentors does the job. So thank you for sharing. You mentioned that you talk a lot to sister programs. Is there a program out there that is inspiring for you, or that you are kind of taking more from? Would you be open to highlighting a program like that?
Oh, that's a tough one.
You can talk about more, like what are the things that you like at other programs and you would like at some point take on, or you're already taking on?
Yeah, I guess with the high demand right now, I'm looking at some of the some of the programs that are run by colleges or universities that have a similar inflow of applications and demand, and just curious, like, how many staff members do they have? How are they managing, like, how is staff managing this workload, and what are they using to stay organized? And so that has been really rewarding. I also just appreciate MIT's VMS office so much for their help with, whenever I have a question, they'll send me a link to a past idea exchange talking about the topic, or, office hours to just talk about what other programs are doing. To be able to have that community, especially as one staff person running this program, is so valuable.
Can you give a specific insight or an example that really like changed something in your program or your approach from the recent memory?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've leaned on MIT's VMS program to ask them about mentor engagement quite a bit lately, because that is a continued challenge for us. And I'm learning about, of course, they're a much bigger office than me, but how they manage, luncheon, who's at what luncheon, and minimum participation requirements. And they were an inspiration of why I branched my committee into two bifurcated committees, because I realized, listening to what they're doing on an operational end as an office, like, I realized that my one committee was barely able to keep up with the application inflow. And so we were never getting to, checking in, who's going to call this mentor who we haven't heard from in 4 months, and, figure out if they still want to be a part of the program. And so that level of just operational accountability I needed in another additional volunteer committee. We'll see if I can keep up with 2 committees per month. It's going to be a little bit more work, but I'm so grateful to have mentors and board members who are helping me do what the MIT VMS office does on a regular basis, with just having a pulse on everyone in the program and performance.
Your program is in great demand. So if it was a business, you would be like getting a lot of profit. But as a nonprofit, it's another challenge to sell the story. What's your thinking on like scaling? Are you thinking of scaling in terms of organization, or staying niche in terms of helping only a specific group of founders, or do you have some other thoughts?
Yeah, for me, some examples of what's going through my head in the immediate future is, we have one conference room in our co-work space for these meetings. I would love to expand and have some other locations in town, so that as we grow, we're not dealing with that scheduling conflict. I would love to better streamline that these teams can book these locations without my assistance. They can kind of run themselves. That's still something I'm pretty hands-on with. We have a lot of entrepreneurs who need fundraising support. And so we've been discussing more educational offerings on the angel group side before they pitch to an angel group, on how to pitch to an angel group, how to fundraise, what the different methods are. That's definitely been a request from our entrepreneurs, that they can get one-on-one in our mentorship program, and most of our mentors have experience with, but to be able to have a course, I think, could be huge for us. So that's the immediate. And then there's always the question of, do we expand our, and so we serve Teton County in Wyoming, and we also there's a mountain pass, and on the other side of the pass is Victor, Idaho, and Driggs, Idaho, and they're all still within, and Alpine, Wyoming, they're all still within our service region, but we have so much work to do to bolster our mentor group in those more remote locations. Most of our mentors are in Jackson. So building out these other smaller areas in our region to better balance the entrepreneurial need and the co-work space need and the mentor need is definitely a project down the pipeline for me.
We're running out of time. I have so many questions, but one last question from me is, what would you say to someone new who is starting a mentorship program or is joining a mentorship program like you did in your role? What piece of advice would you give to a person like that?
I would say pick up the phone and call everyone in the program. Introduce yourself, learn about them. That was overwhelming when I started, I'm not gonna lie, but I think being extra communicative, being kind of this open door policy of the person running the program that anyone can always call, it's going to help you in the long run. And so just reach out, introduce yourself to everyone involved. And if you're building it and it's new, my advice would be just over communicate because it'll help you down the road. When things are not communicated or miscommunicated, it catches up with you. And so I would say I feel that my job is mostly communicating with people and bringing certain people together. So
Thank you so much, Brittney. Really enjoyed your answers.
thanks, Igor. I really enjoyed this.